Welcome to today's episode on the art of teaching yoga. If this is the first time we are meeting, it's a huge pleasure. My name is Wenlin. I'm the founder of the art of teaching yoga. I'm a yoga teacher trainer and also a yoga specialist specializing in Qigong fusion flow as well as somatic yoga for chronic pain in the body. So as part of today's episode, I wanted to share with you guys some tips on 3 steps that you can take to fill your classes, because scrolling through some of the feedback and also the comments that you guys have shared on, for example, your intro posts and also other posts on, for example, the current challenges that you're facing. Many of you mentioned that right now you're still building an online presence, and even for those of you, for example, I think I spoke to a couple of you, including Desiree, Ala, for example. You mentioned that you're at that place where maybe you have had a couple of students, or maybe you have 1 or 2, or you were working for an ashram in India, or maybe a studio, or maybe a gym. But right now what you would like to do is really to get more students to come for your existing classes, for your existing offerings. And this is really the heart of what today's episode will be about. So for today's episode to be extra useful for you, right, please chime in. So I really see this more of as a dialogue, and a lot of what I will be sharing will really depend on what input you give. So this will make it more useful, and I'll be checking from time to time to see what comments you might be having. So just give me a moment to see any of you, if any of you are tuning in live. Okay. All right, I'll just check the comments as and when they come in. So the first step I wanted to talk to you about is, again, these 3 steps are not necessarily chronological in the sense that they have to be followed in the sense step 1, step 2, step 3, so on and so forth. You might be at a different phase or a different stage, and also depending on, for example, whether you own your own business, whether you teach for a studio, a gym, so you have an employer. And also, for example, whether you have group classes or private clients, this will be very different. So I'm going to make a couple of assumptions that today's episode is more focused on group offerings. So if you have maybe a class and you're hoping for maybe at least 10 students to come, then this would be the basis for what today's episode is on. If anyone else is interested to understand more about the getting more private clients, please also leave them in the comment box. Let me know, comment, I'm interested to find out more about how I can get private clients, and then if there's enough demand, I'll also do an episode separately on that. Okay, so let's get into the framework for today, or the blueprint for the 3 steps. So the first step I wanted to talk about is the idea that of understanding your offering. Basically, as all of us as yoga teachers or guides, I deeply believe that all of us have our unique gifts to share with the world. And even, for example, as a new yoga teacher, maybe you're tuning in and you don't already have an offering, or maybe you're a yoga teacher in training and you're kind of feeling a little bit worried about stepping out into the yoga world, how you can begin to offer classes, especially since, for example, right now, as you can see, in the online field, there are many different yoga teachers and there are many studios offering classes. So how can you begin to differentiate yourself? So this is really at the heart of what the first step is. The first step asks you to look clearly at your offering and to understand what your offering is. So for example, if you're offering a group class, who is it for and exactly what style of yoga? And also what makes that class, that style or that program so different from all the others available right now. So let's say, for example, you teach 2 classes a week, and you teach a vinyasa flow class, which is a little bit more energizing, a little bit more fast-paced and vigorous. And then the other style that you might be teaching is yin. And I know many of you out there tuning in, you might be certified in either one of the styles, or for example, you might be interested to begin to offer these styles. So this is very often, and maybe you might teach another hatha class as well. So what you need to get clear with in the beginning is to is what makes your class unique. And the reason why this is so important is because when we get to the later steps, right, how you convey what is important or your unique selling point, your USP of what you're offering to people will really come across. If you're not sure why your offering is so special, or for example, you might feel a little bit worried looking at other people's classes and thinking that other students might be comparing your class with another teacher's class which seems the same, and then at the end of the day the students are comparing it based on the price or the timing. So I want to first talk about one fear that you might have, which is this price comparison or the idea that there are many different free classes around. This is why it is so important. So I want to debunk that doubt or that fear that you have right now. Yes, indeed, there are many different free classes available, but your class is unique. And if your class is not yet unique, or maybe you know that it is unique, but you haven't yet managed to convey this both visually in terms of maybe, for example, the communication images that you use in your promotion or in the words, so in the copy. For example, if you have a mailing list in whatever you use in the email that you send out to your mailing list or in your social media. So this could be Facebook. So as I'm doing right now, we are communicating every single time I have an episode, or for example, I have a post, I have a copy. Right? This is basically so-called the sales pitch. Even though there's no sale involved in this case, I'm not selling you anything, but I'm selling you, getting you to tune in into this episode. So, and then there's an attractive description. So think about it. So the description is actually, it should embody all that your class is, what makes it so different. And you should be spending a lot of time on identifying clearly what your USP is, your unique selling point of your classes, and as a brand, if you work for yourself. And if you work for a studio, then of course that would be more of aligning with the studio and being able to communicate what the studio will offer to people in return and what makes this class so special. So there are many different, for example, vinyasa yoga classes out there, and there are many different yin yoga classes out there. But for example, maybe your vinyasa classes are a series of 5 that combine the 5 elements to help to balance and boost your immunity in the body. And then this might be targeted towards people who are, for example, have been feeling a little under the weather, a little bit unwell because of winter period, and also because of the fear of COVID. So they might be your targets. So you have to, once you come clear with your unique selling point, it will give you a clear indication of who you might be targeting and the kinds of words that you would then use to approach them, if that makes sense. All right. So I'm just going to quickly check if anyone has any comments, because sometimes you guys might leave comments, but I somehow don't manage to see them. Okay, I don't see them anymore. But it's fine, yeah. So going back to that point, the first point of your unique selling point is very, very important. And think about really what makes you special as a yoga instructor and what makes your approach special. So even if, for example, you didn't manage to incorporate special things like maybe say the 5 elements or boosting your immunity, your approach might be different. For example, you might be someone who focuses a lot on making your classes very inclusive. You use language and you offer modifications and variations of poses to ensure that people of all sizes, or for example, people who are recovering from injury, can really enjoy the class that they might not otherwise with another instructor. So this is very, very important. This is usually why it is the first step. And I know, for example, many of you, if you're tuning in, you've probably heard from some other forums or other groups or even other yoga teacher trainers who have told you to niche down. And I mentioned this in some of the other episodes as well. I know if you're beginning as a yoga teacher, you might not have that capacity to niche down yet. So don't worry about that, but think about broadly what are your strengths and what is your general approach to teaching. And if you teach, what would make this series, or what would make this connection with you and your student, and how you facilitate this class and all the classes in this series like so special. Okay, so that's the first step. The second step would then naturally lead on to this. So once you have a clear understanding of what your class is about and why it is so special, and you have to be really sold. So if you're selling your class, you have to be so excited about it. Like for example, I'll talk a little bit about my own offering, because in January, I'll be starting with a 13-week, right? You didn't hear it wrongly, 13-week journey that incorporates Qigong, functional movement, and yoga into this series that really helps to cultivate discipline and focus for people who want to build resilience. So they might have experienced some obstacles in this year 2020, and they're really looking to build focus and resilience inside their minds and bodies. So this is my program, and you can see I very clearly defined what the elements are, what's the benefit I'm trying to convey with this, and it clearly has very unique or distinct how would I say, positioning within the market. You probably have not heard many classes that combine functional movement with Qigong and with yoga, and that's position or focus on resilience. So this is my example. And the second part is on who you are then positioning or selling this to, right? So if you know, for example, that you have two classes and you have a vinyasa class and a yin class, then it might make sense to have a clear understanding of which students I should attract for the vinyasa class and which students I would attract for the yin class. Because yes, there might be overlap between the two of them, and I know that some of you also offer maybe say a monthly subscription, or for example, you might work for a studio and you teach a variety of classes. But in general, my own experience and understanding has been that it makes more sense for each distinct offering to have a clear idea of what audience is best matched to serve the needs of. Because for example, an energizing vinyasa flow class would be very beneficial for some kinds of people that may not necessarily be beneficial for people who are attracted to yin yoga classes. And I know that yes, probably as you are tuning in, you might have some objections. And I spoke to some of you. In fact, I think I recall correctly, it was Desiree, you mentioned that you teach many classes and you don't want to let go of any of the classes, which is great. And possibly some of your students even want to have the flexibility to attend as many classes as possible. If that is the case, for example, right, if you are offering variety of classes and you are offering a class pass, a weekly pass, or a monthly pass, then I would ask you to think about, okay, for right now, who are the people who are already attending your classes? Do they attend very regularly? Are they maxing out the number of classes that they can attend? If not, right, think about why is it they are not attending. And I know some of you might have questions. For example, you might say, oh, it is the timing that they cannot make it live. They prefer live only classes. So every single student has his or her own criteria. Check, 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 check. There are some things that are non-negotiables for them, and there are some things that are negotiables. So I have a couple of clients or students whom, for example, they love attending live classes, but they would never ever do, say, a pre-recorded class. And therefore, this is something also I recommend, and this doesn't necessarily fall under the 3 steps. But I highly suggest for you to do this. Have an inventory or a list of all your existing students, from past to present and even prospective students. So people you have reached out to, if you're in the process of prospecting, but not yet warmed up to gotten them to convert. So once you have this list, right, you can then categorize and understand the needs of every single student, because the student that is most likely to come back to fill your class is actually someone you already know, someone who might be an old student who might have come for the last program, or maybe before Christmas but then dropped off. So they are like the most likely to come back to your class. So you should reach out to them from time to time and understand really their non-negotiables, so that when you offer something that matches their criteria and it's perfect, then aha, it rings a bell, and you should immediately contact them and then just let them know. But in the meanwhile, you have to keep that contact warm. You have to continue to find out how's it going for them, how can you help them otherwise. So this is one very important part of, I think, sales and just establishing relationships with people. Because as you're tuning in, I understand that you might have some objections, and we talked about it in some of the previous episodes, that you might be feeling very likely that I'm just a yoga instructor, I just want to teach. Or maybe, for example, I'm an Ayurveda therapist, I just want to offer Ayurveda, I'm not good at this like connecting with people, or like I'm not good with this sales thing. Okay, don't see this as sales. Don't see this as so-called connecting with people. You're communicating the value of a service. And this service is vital. It is important and it is valuable to people, especially if these people have bought something from you in the past. Okay, so these are repeat customers. So important thing as part of step 2, you got to get to know who your customers are. And then especially if you have repeat customers, but some of them have fallen off, you definitely have to recontact them. This is the easiest way. They are the lowest hanging fruit. Always stay in contact with your old customers. Okay, and then for the next step would be for your current customers as well, understand for them, where every time you do a class, and I talk a lot about feedback, collecting feedback, I'm all about collecting feedback. You have to really understand, is this current program, is this current class meeting your needs? Maybe, for example, you are offering a 45-minute class, but many people are saying they don't have time for 45 minutes. Would you consider from next month onwards offering 30-minute classes? Yeah, I know it sounds like I've never done that before, but yeah, this is part of innovating to meet your clients' needs, your students' needs. And the last part would be prospecting. So if you don't yet prospect, I will have to probably talk about this in a separate episode on just sales, because many of you also mentioned that you're in the process of setting up maybe a new website or social media page, or maybe you're new to the online world. You've had students face to face, but you don't have their contacts online. So how can you begin to prospect? It could be as simple as posting a post on your Facebook page, not your for example, your yoga teacher page, but your own Facebook page. As simple as saying, I've started to offer this kind of class for this kind of people. If you or anyone else might be interested, it might be something that's helpful for you, leave me a comment. I would love to chat. So I mentioned this in a recent post, right? Along with some other tips, like for example, converting the name, or if you have a Facebook page of your business from yoga with maybe say Michelle, changing that into, if you want to do private yoga with Michelle, then say private yoga for Michelle. So being very specific with how you describe your offerings and who it is for. So already you start to attract your ideal client. And the goal here is not to start to sell your product immediately, like, oh my God, buy my thing, buy my class. It's not. First, try to understand what people need. Where are they right now? What are their challenges? What are they facing? And then think about how you can help them. And then from then on, maybe you can talk about the class, if people are feeling they're low in energy, and then you can tell them, oh, would you consider coming for a Vinyasa Flow class? Vinyasa Flow is quite energizing. So during the class, you'll be taken through a fast moving pace class that links one pose to the other fluidly, and then at the end of the class you might feel a little bit tired, but the next day actually you feel full of energy. So it's about how you describe what you offer so that it resonates with them. And if you don't know their challenges, if you don't know what they already are struggling with, then you cannot possibly share what you have to share with them in a way that it makes sense to them, that yeah, I should definitely go for this class, it's a no-brainer. Okay, so if any of you have any questions on what I mentioned, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment box. And then of course, possibly I might do a separate training on any of the bits I mentioned. But if you have further comments or questions, just leave them and then I'll get back to them at a later point. Okay, so now with regards to prospecting, so you have an entire list, right, as part of your second step. If you have your past, current, future clients, and then you've already started to reach out within just your own social circle, telling them what you offer, what makes you so unique, and why, you know, it might be relevant for them, having a conversation with them. Then the last step would be really then starting to begin to find a way to communicate the offering to them in a way that it makes sense to them. And you have to hear, it's very, very important to use their words. So I'll give you an example. So for Vinyasa flow classes, or okay, no, this time let's use Yin as an example. So let's say you're aiming to get more beginners to yoga in your classes, and you have a 4-week beginner to Yin series. And you really want to get people to join this class or this program, but you have no idea how to begin to communicate this. Think backwards. So we start with first step and second step. So Yin, what is it so special about? Yin is working with the connective tissue. We stay a little bit longer in the poses. How is it beneficial, right? You start to begin to stress, cause healthy stress in the compression in your bones. You help to create neuroplasticity inside your connective tissue. It helps to stimulate and also invigorate your body. It's also a great way of, for example, cultivating contemplation and reflection, because you stay longer in the poses, right? So this is all about Yin if you just think about Yin. So as you brainstorm the benefits and what makes up, you know, a specific class, and let's say you're doing this beginner Yin class. So people might be new to Yin and they don't know how to approach Yin. What makes your Yin class so special is because you walk them through 4 specific sequences for specific meridian energy lines, or maybe for specific pains in the body. Right? Maybe like people with shoulder ache, like let's say you have remote workers in mind for this series. Then you would think about talking about these things. Then what makes it even more important, the icing on the cake, that last cherry on the top, is you have to then do your research to understand, okay, what words do remote workers use? Do you have a couple of friends who, or even existing clients who are remote workers who attend your Yin classes? And notice what they are saying about Yin. Notice, for example, how they describe when they have shoulder pain, how they describe their main challenges. And as much as possible, you want to be using the exact language that they are using to convey the problems, the challenges, and the needs of this group of people, so that when your ideal client, who's not yet your client, reads the copy, they're like, oh my god, this is me. This is exactly me. I need this product. What is this? You know, how does this person know me? This is exactly what I need at this exact point of time. And then as you craft the description of what the solution will be that you will offer them, then it becomes very convincing and easy for them to purchase this product or this service or this program. And and then it becomes less about selling and more about simply conveying or communicating. Does that make sense? And I'll give another example if we talk about you having more than one class a week. And I know if you don't necessarily want to have a specific niche or specialization, then another possible way of doing it is, I'm just thinking on my feet because I know a couple of you offer various different offerings. Think about packaging your product and those people who are already on your packages. So for people who are already on, let's say, your weekly pass and they're attending 3 or 4 classes a week, Yin, Vinyasa, blah, blah, who are they actually? Maybe they are working professionals and they want to get an all-rounded or cost-efficient solution to their fitness needs. Or perhaps they are new to yoga and they want to dip their toes to try every single type of style of yoga so they can better understand their needs with an experienced instructor who is able to guide them, right? Someone experienced with guiding beginners. So it's all pretty much the same. And I know that you may have heard this before, but these 3 steps are extremely crucial. And if you haven't done them extremely well, if your classes, for example, don't have 20 people in them, chances are that you have not done any one of the steps well. And I am in the process of doing that as well. Right, totally. I keep revisiting these from time to time, and as I offer a new offering, I also consider, for example, whether this matches my previous clients or my previous students. Yeah, so as we reach the end, I'm gonna have a quick check to see if anyone has any questions. Okay, so if you do, please leave them. I'm not able to see. For a few different episodes, I didn't manage to see if you guys have comments until the episode ended, and I'll try my best to check in later on. So wrapping up again today, the 3 main steps are firstly understanding your unique selling point and conveying the unique selling point of your service, your program, or maybe a package that you're selling, or your brand. So if you don't intend to specialize in one area, that's okay. But your brand message must be super clear. Maybe you are an all-rounded teacher who specializes in teaching yoga across 3 types for beginners. Or maybe, for example, you're an Ayurveda therapist who combines the unique intelligence of Ayurveda with Hatha yoga, so that maybe your clients who are undergoing, who have specific health issues, can really enjoy the benefits of yoga, both spiritual, mental, and also physical. So it has to really come together and come across like very straightforward. And then the second step would be who it is for. So these 2 steps are kind of like not necessarily one after the other. You could think of your ideal client first, and then think of how your product is matching their needs. So, but these 2 are really very closely tied. You cannot pull apart one from the other. So remember to really continue to connect with your existing clients, your previous clients as well. They will be the most likely to continue to buy from you. Don't think that if you haven't heard from them the 3rd time, the 4th time they are dead. Keep trying, because if they bought from you at least once, or if they twice, then there's chances that definitely they will come back. Then for some reason they were busy, or maybe there's an offering you offered didn't match their needs, or for example, and this is not a right time for them. So you have to find out why. What is this reason that's stopping you from getting that connection with them, that sale? And then of course, for your existing clients, continue to collect feedback, understand what makes the class so good. I didn't mention this, but also you might want to incentivize them. One of the best bonus tip, one of the best things you can do to fill your classes right now, if you don't already have, is get your existing students to share about your class. And then you can incentivize them. If they share it with one other friend, or if they bring a friend, they can get something else free. Maybe they get 1 session free. Maybe for private clients, especially if you have an existing private client, you can tell them, oh, if they refer a client to you, they get 1 session free when the friend books maybe a 10 class pack or something. So this is one of the easiest ways. And then if, for example, you are in a country where you're able to do in-person classes and you're doing group classes as well, one thing I used to do and that worked really well with me was I sold tickets for classes that are for 2 people, and they're significantly cheaper than for 1 person. So a lot of people then buy into that idea and they just bring a friend anyway, like the first time, because it's like so much cheaper. They would not then just do it by themselves, and that really worked well for me. And you can also definitely consider, if you're not already selling your classes in bundles, you have to do it now. Stop selling like low ticket single class offerings. Like make that available for discovery. Let's say you're listing on various platforms and you want someone to accidentally maybe find out about your class and tune in for the first time. That's fine. But if you are selling to people you know, or for example, or even recurrent clients, you have to sell a package. It is not worth your time to message people on a weekly basis to tell them, hey, are you coming for class tomorrow, for maybe 10 US dollars or 15 US dollars. That's really not worth your time. Please don't do that. Start thinking of your classes in terms of like bundles, in packages, in terms of like a journey, a program, so that you're guiding people and people want the feeling that there's some form of continuation. This is very important as well. And probably I could spend even one whole episode talking about that. If you're interested, leave a comment so I will know, and I will talk about that separately. And then if we move on to the last step, the most important thing is then to use the language of the people that come for your classes, your ideal clients or your prospective clients, and then use that in the copy, right? In whatever communication, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, IG, TikTok, whether it is email, right? Whatever channel you are using with them, right? You have to use that same language to convey the value of what it is you are selling so that it's so great. All right, so with this, I've come to the end of today's episode. I hope this episode has been useful for you. I know that these are, again, broad strokes, but any of these steps by themselves could be an hour-long webinar, or actually even 2 hours if you were going to sit down and workshop through the different steps and the different strategies to really become clear with your unique selling point, your unique teaching voice, and then to kind of identify your ideal client for each of the offerings, especially if you have different offerings, and then how you can begin to market to connect with your prospective clients, your existing clients, and then to warm up your cold leads from the past. Right, so all of this takes time, and then also copywriting as well, like in terms of email communication, in terms of Facebook, or in terms of other kinds of social media that you use. But I still hope that somehow this has been helpful for you. There are a couple of different tips that we've shared here today. I hope that you will take at least one of them and action on them, right? If you haven't already. And I want to make a quick announcement. So in the coming year, what you can expect, and today is the last day of 2020, I hope you're having a great day. In the coming year, there are a couple of different exciting things. In January, I'll be taking on or offering you guys mini strategy consultations. And how these will work will be they are 30 minutes long. You can book in at a time. I'll share the details later on in the coming 2 weeks. And during the 30-minute call, what will happen is we will have a nice chat, and I'll better understand what your current situation is. So I know many of you, we've chatted on Facebook or maybe on IG or various different platforms, or through email, for example. But during that chat, we're gonna really dive deep into, for example, the top 1 to 2 challenges you're facing right now as a yoga instructor, or if you're not. For example, whether you're being hired by someone or you would like to be hired by someone, or if you're starting to create your own yoga business but you're not quite there yet and you want to have some issues with, for example, the technology, or with example to conveying selling, or with respect to building confidence, or any of these things. So we'll be diving into the top 1 to 2 challenges. And then I will be refining with you to understand, okay, so these are your challenges, and I'll give you a couple of tips, right? So that you can then move forward from just that 30-minute session. So there will be no sales involved, right? No worries. I'm not selling you anything. I'm really just here to support you. I do offer some trainings later on in 2021, but that's quite later on. So no worries about that. This is purely here to support you, and I hope you have a good year. And if you're interested, right, keep a lookout in the group. There will be a post. And also, if you're on the mailing list, right, you will receive an email recapping today's episode about this 30-minute strategy call and how you can find out more and how it can support you. Okay, so with this, we've come to the end of today's episode. There will be more to come. In the coming year, in January, you can expect a Confidence to Teach online training, a 5-day challenge. And I'm still in the process of structuring that. That will be structured based on the needs of most of you who are in the group. So keep a lookout for that. That will likely be in the 2nd or the 3rd week of January. And yeah, it will be a short one, a few minutes every day for 5 days. So please take care. Please have a great rest of the day ahead. And here's to having a great year ahead, 2021. Bye.